For a better life at values.com.
Today's best mix while you work, 93.1 KISS FM. It is not 8:31. It's 50 degrees. Remember, I'm going to have that audio of the Stephanie Townsend Ayala interview up on kisselpaso.com sometime before noon. But right now, we have City Representative Steve Ortega in.
Trish, thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
Well, thank you for coming. And okay, now Stephanie had some emails and things like that. I'm sure you know the opposition's point of view about the bonds and everything. Vote them all down, right, because they want to reset this whole project thing because they're upset that the voters didn't get a chance to vote on anything.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate the tact that they have used. They have spread misinformation. They've spread lies. I don't even think their own arguments make sense. One of the arguments is you want to vote against all three so that we don't have high taxes, yet they are asking you to vote against number 3, which would actually allow outsiders, people who stay in our hotel rooms, to pay about 72% of the cost of the stadium. And so there's some cognitive dissonance with their arguments. And then I think, to be very frank with you, there is some inappropriate allegations. There are some inappropriate allegations that are taking place, criminal actions, illegal activity. It's unfortunate that it's gone that way, but I can tell you what me and some of the other supporters are doing and talking to people is explaining why this would be a positive for El Paso. This city right now is experiencing unprecedented momentum. We're on an upward trajectory. The Federal Reserve just this summer reported that we have shrunk the per capita income gap relative to the national average by 10% over the last 10 years. Last year, we were ranked one of the number 2 strongest economies in the country behind San Antonio. And so I think there's a sense in this community that El Paso is on the rise, and I think the support of the bond elections just helps that upward trajectory just move much faster.
Okay, there are a lot of people out there who say, look, I'm not going to be able to afford my property taxes if this stuff goes through.
Yeah, and I certainly understand that. I think the average for a $100,000 home is at about $40. And the idea would be that we would, in the long run, want to reduce property taxes because we are successful at attracting business, industry, and jobs here. And that's certainly a strategy that other communities across the country that have been successful have tried. We in El Paso, the 80s, the 90s, we didn't do that. We didn't invest in ourselves. And so when the year 2000 comes around, we're at 62%.
Right.
Of the per capita income average. So we've tried the strategy already of not investing in ourselves, and we saw how that paid off. Okay,
now on my email, I had somebody who said, okay, they keep saying that this is going to switch property taxes to business owners from homeowners.
Yeah.
Like it's going to be more heavy towards the business owners. So my emailer says, please explain to me how that works because it doesn't sound like it works to me.
I certainly haven't said that, but let me give you an example that I think a lot of people can relate to. We have the city of Austin, Texas, which is a little bit larger than El Paso. They have a municipal tax rate that is lower than El Paso's, yet their municipal budget is 3 times that of El Paso. And you ask yourself, well, how can they have a lower rate, but their municipal budget is 3 times our size? What Austin has done tremendously well is they have attracted business and industry to their community. And one of the things that business and industry looks for is a community where their employees are going to want to live. And I think all of us that live in El Paso, we know what a wonderful community this is. But I think when you love something like we love El Paso, you also want to make it better. And so part of making it better would be to make this community more attractive by having better parks, more recreational options, more family options like museum, more entertainment options. And the end goal is not only to attract businesses here, but also to attract and keep people that are going to be attractive to businesses. And so one of the things that UTEP put out several months ago is 85% of their engineering graduates leave El Paso.
Right.
I would love for those kids to stay here, for the jobs to come here because they're here, and really turn around the job situation that, quite frankly, I think is getting turned around. But I think supporting this bond election to the taxpayer at the end of the day helps him because we're going to be more competitive when competing for not only jobs, but for the people that those jobs are going to follow.
Now, see, my family, I kind of see it as kind of a microcosm of El Paso because we've got the old folks, my mom and my dad, they're in their mid-70s. And my dad said, I'm willing to expend some of this money on property taxes, on other kind of taxes, in order to have my generation and my son's generation and my grandkids' generations all have better things. And he says, I see the reason why we're doing this, and it might pinch a little bit, but in the long run, it's going to be great. Now, my generation, I'm 46, and I'm thinking to myself, am I going to stay here for 40 more years? Because I need to have some amenities in my city. I mean,
Right.
I don't always want to have to travel to go do interesting things. I would love to have really cool things to do here in El Paso. And then you have my son's generation. You know, he's been to Iraq 3 times. He's got a lot of friends on Fort Bliss. And to be quite honest with you, that's where I think we're missing the boat. You know, 50, 60 years ago, at the end of World War II, we had a lot of German soldiers who stayed here, who moved here, didn't go back home. You know, we had a lot of English soldiers. We had a lot of soldiers who came through Fort Bliss who stayed in El Paso and helped build El Paso to where we were. We were moving forward. Everything was going great. But we're not going to have that this time around because these soldiers are like, yeah, there's not much to do here. There's really no reason for me to stay here. So we're going to hang out with the girls. We're going to marry them, and we're going to take them too.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like we need to keep these soldiers here. We need to keep the people from who are graduating from UTEP here. And you're right. I mean, when you don't have really cool things to stick around for, you don't stick around.
You're not going to be competitive. And the reality is we are competing against Albuquerque. We are competing against Tucson. We are competing against Austin. We are competing against Phoenix. And many of these communities have the amenities that are on the bond election. And so I think it's imperative that we support this. Quite frankly, I think the community is going to support this. I think many realize that El Paso is now turning the corner. And we're on the verge of being a leading southwestern city again. And so I think it's very important that the community get out and support the propositions.
Okay, so let's say Wednesday morning we wake up, turns out Prop 3 failed. Okay, we voted it down. Now what?
You know, that would be very unfortunate because we have made commitments and we have taken votes that the ballpark is going to be built. Prop 3 merely asks, do you want to pay for it? Or do you want outsiders who come in and stay at our hotel rooms to pay for about 72% of it? If you want to pay for it, I don't understand why you would want to, but if you do, vote against Prop 3.
Right.
The way that I'm voting, my friends are voting, my family are voting, is to allow the outsiders who are coming in from out of town, who stay in hotel rooms, to shoulder about 72% of the cost of the ballpark. And it's no different than when you go visit other cities and you stay in their hotel rooms, you're paying for those cities' infrastructure.
Well, sure, that's how what's his face, the Dallas Cowboy guys.
Jerry Jones.
Jerry Jones. I can never remember his name. I always want to call him Jimmy Johnson. Jerry Jones, he didn't put up $1 billion for that stadium.
Right. And the paradox is some of the opponents of the election are saying, vote against 3, it's going to increase your taxes. Vote against 1 and 2. But the 3 part I don't understand, because the 3 part actually mitigates the burden that the residents here would experience. Again, it doesn't make sense. I don't think it's honest.
Right.
And so I certainly would encourage everyone out there to vote for Proposition 3. Let the outsiders shoulder the burden, and then certainly support number 1 and 2 as well.
Okay, and one of the other things Stephanie said was, if we vote down Prop 3, they're going to have to look at Cohen Stadium.
That is not true. What we have heard repeatedly, what the media has reported repeatedly, is AAA has been to El Paso numerous occasions and said, quite frankly, the Cohen model does not work for AAA. Branch Rickey, who is the grandson of the gentleman who bought Jackie Robinson to the Brooklyn Dodgers, came into town several weeks ago and said, let me clear this up. Cohen Stadium was not acceptable from AAA's perspective. The way that these baseball stadiums are going is in the downtown, because instead of like Cohen walking from the ballpark across a asphalt lot to your car, in the downtown areas, you're walking by retail, you're walking by residential, you're walking by coffee shops. So you spur that economic activity that makes the venue sustainable. And that's the strategy here with the ballpark in El Paso.
Okay, we're going to take a real quick break. It's 8:41. Coming up next, we're going to ask Steve Ortega, okay, everybody's always saying, how come we didn't get to vote on this in the first place? We'll get that question answered from an emailer coming up on 93.1 KISS FM. Today's best mix while you work, 93.1 KISS FM. It is 8:40.